episode 3 of AI in the UAE. My name is Lee Mallon, and in this episode, we are going to talk all about AI regulation and how, when, who, where, and what that is going to look like. But first of all, I want to show where I am in the UAE today. Today, I am at Abu Dhabi Global Markets. This is the capital of capital, the Falcon economy, and one of the most leading and cutting-edge regulators in the world. They were one of the first to establish their guidance on crypto, and I am sure we're going to see some massively interesting things from them around artificial intelligence. This was the very place where I got to see and ask a question to Sam Altman of OpenAI, and have attended things like Finance Week, FinTech Week, and the soon Abu Dhabi AI conference. Now, this talk I wanted to deliver to you from Abu Dhabi Global Market Square, as you can see here, but I forgot to turn on my microphone. So instead, you're going to have to enjoy this lovely virtual background from the Rosewood Hotel in Abu Dhabi. In the last few weeks, we've seen this start to become a bit of a buzzword. In the US, we've had closed-door Senate hearings with the top tech CEOs, and in Europe, we're seeing the AI Act start to make its way through. Now, this is also coupled with things like chip export bans, heightened tensions obviously in Taiwan, where majority of semiconductors are coming from, and obviously the runaway success of Nvidia's market share currently. So we have to kind of ask ourselves, how are we going to regulate this space? There are many, many aspects to this. First off, training data. One of the biggest pushes of AI that's caught mainstream attention, obviously, was ChatGPT, and ChatGPT 4 in particular, because it added this humanistic element to it. Now, this large language model was trained on a lot of data, and there's two really big points in this that we need to think about, especially around regulation. First of all, where is this training data coming from? Who owns it? Who should monetize it? How should it be respected with regards to intellectual property law? But secondly, all of these GPUs, thousands upon thousands of them, which cost a lot of money both to run and also in energy consumption. And maybe that's where regulation's probably going to start. They're going to restrict the size, the compute requirements to train these models, because they cost tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to train. And that is one hell of a competitive advantage against competing organizations. And it's why we're starting to see a lot of startups raise rounds in the hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars for their Series A. Now, once we have this training data, we then have to train it on all of these GPUs. This happens in data centers around the world, and it uses a lot of compute. Climate change is a massive hot topic, and particularly here in the UAE, where we'll be hosting COP28 in December in Dubai. No wonder AI is going to basically be a major talking point, both in the compute of what it takes, but also because, let's be honest, without AI, we're really, really on the back foot with regards to climate change. AI is probably going to be one of the key indicators to our success. So this is the problem where we start to get into with regulation. Do we stop the progression, or do we hinder our future ability? When we move away from training data and we have this kind of model all up and running, we then have to have influence. We then can call this model and ask it questions. I use ChatGPT and GPT-4 almost every day. It is like having a virtual colleague sat next to me. And I find it amazing and unbelievably useful tool. But sometimes it blocks things I want to ask, because it has a trust and safety layer set on top of it. And that trust and safety layer has been decided upon by OpenAI. And that decision is largely driven by potentially an American worldview, which not all countries are going to agree with. I was having a conversation only last week where there is genuine fear in the African continent and the countries within it of not having enough digitized information to train an LLM model. Let's forget about getting access to the chips, having the compute power and the financial resources to do so. There are countries in the world that don't have enough of their own digital content to basically train a model in their population's worldview. Now, this is going to become more and more apparent as we see more and more of these models get created. The one saving grace of all this is quite a lot of companies, including Facebook, the UAE's own TII and G42 are releasing a lot of these models open source. So we get to see the model structure, the weights, and hopefully more and more what training data was used to train them. So similar to digitizing information, there's also this fear of job displacement and the social impact that AI is going to have. And I must admit, I think it's a valid fear. I'm not saying that UBI is potentially going to solve this, but we do need to start looking at how, from a regulatory point of view, we can balance the either retraining or the supplementing of income, because if the progress of AI that's happened over the last few years is going to continue to increase, there is going to be a dramatic shift within the workforce and the abilities, which then leads on to the workforce and companies. And I think this is where regulation will kind of be self-medicating in the way that companies are going to want to embrace this technology, and they are already, but they're also not going to want their data leaking out into these wider models. And we can see this already where organizations are wanting to create and fine-tune and host their own models themselves. But then we get into a situation where these models, which require immense compute from GPUs, you could end up having 20 of exactly the same model hosted in the same data center, but just serving different companies. And we actually need to get more in line with how we run data centers and have better virtualization across these models and security precautions so that these things can be pulled more efficiently. And then I think for me, the final bit is us citizens. You know, we have things like data privacy, GDPR, and that didn't go well because that was just annoying pop-ups on websites. Can we actually, with this AI revolution and this new era, redefine what data ownership means? And then also the ability for you to own your data. Could this be the opportunity to give people back control of their information? We shall see. Only time will tell. The one thing I'm really excited for, and slightly biased being here in the UAE, is regulators like ADGM, who push out consultation papers with not just closed-door Senate hearings like in the US, but to the populace. They basically share ideas, and I hope we can see this from more regulators around the world, where they share what they're looking to do and what they're looking to regulate with regards to AI, and ask for feedback, ask for comments from both people and experts in the field, so they can fine-tune their own regulation to make sure that we're all both safe, but also not hindered by red tape to progress forward. If you've got any thoughts of how AI regulation potentially is going to change, please let me know. I'd love to hear more about it. Have a lovely evening, and this was AI Regulation.